How's it going, you guys? It's Scott with Everyday Home Repairs, and today I want to walk you through the steps needed to make a nice tree ring or mulch ring around your trees in your yard. Now for me, there's three reasons I'm doing this. First is just look. I'm trying to get my lawn and my landscaping put together, and I have a lot of work to do, but this is a good step in that direction. Number two is to make it easier to mow. So as we have low branches coming off our trees or our bushes, it's nice to have that tree ring so you can easily mow around them and you're not avoiding branches while you're doing that. And then the final reason is overall to get more moisture and nutrients to this tree to promote healthy growth. Now this is a super approachable project by any homeowner. I'll show you the few tools that you'll need, some tips along the way, how to keep weeds out of that mulch throughout the growing season, and the number one issue that even pros make sometimes when placing the mulch that could negatively impact the health of your tree or even kill it long term. So let's jump into it. Now getting a nice circle centered about the trunk of your tree doesn't have to be hard. There's a few different ways to do it. What I do is I just use a tie-down strap here. I put a loop and then I'll put my edger inside that loop. You could put your spade if you're just using a spade, and then I'm going to pull that tight, and then I'll just use that to keep me consistently 3 feet away from the trunk. Now, if your tree does not have kind of a symmetric trunk, it might be a little more difficult, but it should work for you as well. And then you don't have to have any marking paint or mess with any string that's getting caught up. Now, once you have that perimeter all cut around, now I start to actually cut out the sod. Now remember, depending on your situation, you might be tossing this out and getting it out of your yard. For me, I'm reusing it. So you could throw it in your wheelbarrow. I'm just throwing it on a tarp. I like using tarps in different projects around the yard because I can just drag that to another part of the yard. Specifically here, I'm just going to drag it to the side of my house because I'm going to use that sod to fill in some bare patches along that side of the house. And just a heads up, this is going to be where you're exerting the most energy getting the sod out. So if you got some kids around the house, this would be a great time to call them in and burn off some of their energy. And then no need to get things perfect right now. Just go ahead and get that sod off, and then we'll jump down and kind of slope things out and clean it up before we start to put the mulch in and show you how to reduce the chances of weeds coming up through your mulch and the part that you need to avoid to make sure you're not going to hurt your tree long term. So now's where I just break out some hand tools. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of that grass off. I want to make sure that I'm uncovering what's called the root flare at the base of the tree. We want to keep that exposed. And just loosen up some of this earth and also try not to damage any of the roots in the process. Then I'll go ahead and remove a little bit of this material, and then we'll be ready for mulch. And then just for your reference, that outside edge that I cut in is only about 2.5 to 3 inches deep. You don't have to go down too deep for what we're trying to do here with the mulch ring. So we'll clean up all this material. I'll clean up the edges a little bit. And then I'm not going to be laying down any fabric, or some people even say newspaper, but you do want to make sure you have all grass and weeds, even down to the roots, removed before we start putting in the mulch. Now how I will control the weeds is I'm just going to sprinkle on what is called preen. I'm going to sprinkle that on the dirt here, and then I'm also going to sprinkle that within the mulch. This is not a weed killer, it's a pre-emergent weed preventer. So we need to make sure all the weeds are out, and this will help prevent any future weeds from growing. You can reference this, there's a link below to the description. You'll see this in the exterior section of our Amazon store, which is all the recommendations for DIYers. In addition, you'll see the Anderson 4-step lawn maintenance program. Now I'm testing that out. I'm on step 2, which is actually killing my dandelions as we speak. They're starting to curl over. If you guys have any experience with the Anderson 4-step, let me know down in the description. I'm curious to see how that works throughout the year. So just finish up sprinkling this down. And then next up, we're on to mulch. So I'll just be laying a layer of about 2 inches of mulch here. And let me quickly add the mulch in here and show you what a lot of people do, but it's exactly what you want to avoid to make sure your tree stays healthy. So often what you'll get is people really, one, they'll go pretty thick with their mulch, and two, they'll actually build it up around the base of the tree. So now we've just covered up our root flare, and that can lead to really suffocating the root system of the tree, which is exactly what you don't want to do. So you really want to actually back that completely away. You want to expose that root flare. And that's also why our ground is sloping out, because I'm going to go 2 inches of mulch here at the actual edge, but then come up to really basically no mulch right at the root flare. If you do pack that up, it leads to an entire secondary root system growing. And I actually have an example. Let me show you in the backyard where I had somebody put mulch down last year, and they actually did this volcano look, and there is a secondary root system. So here's an example in my backyard of a mulch volcano, right? It's sloping up, it's covering up the actual flare of your root system itself. So if we kind of dig in to this mulch, what you're gonna start to see is you're gonna start to see a whole root system. Now here is the flare, so that was completely covered up. And that starts to then suffocate the tree. So the tree starts putting out in a completely separate secondary root system to get the nutrients that it needs and the moisture it needs. Now this can start to grow and can start to crisscross and then strangle the actual base of your tree. So this is exactly why we do not want to make mulch volcanoes, and we want to expose the actual root flare of your tree. So for this actual 3-foot diameter ring, so you can reference for your own project, I used about in a bag and a half, and each bag was 2 cubic feet worth of mulch. This is just a cypress mulch. Now, if you want to get the dyed mulch to get a little different look, red or black, that is completely up to you. This is just kind of your standard grade mulch. And then to finish off, I am going to put a little more preen on the top of this mulch. And then I'll go ahead and wet this down afterwards, kind of letting that preen soak into the mulch itself. So that's all there is to it. Now, if you guys have another classic issue on the exterior of our homes, that's when the sidewalks start to actually sink down. There's nothing wrong with the actual slab itself. It's just sunken down a couple inches, which is exactly what I had at the entrance of my home. Now, if you want to check that out and see how I jacked up that slab and actually supported it with, believe it or not, spray foam, check out this video right here and I'll walk you through the complete process. So thanks for joining me on this video, and we'll catch you on that next one. Take care.